Hi, I'm Ian Lees, and you're listening to Scottish Shindig with Andy Phillip on Radio GH.
The Scottish Shindig, the best in Scottish dance music and song.
Well, hello and a very warm welcome to the Scottish Shindig. It's Andy standing in for Ewan, and sit back, relax, or get your dancing shoes on for the next hour of great music and song. Well, hello to everyone tuned in. I hope you've had a great week and I hope you're ready for the next hour of great music song. Hello to Mary and to everyone else tuned in. We'll get started straight away. Take your partners for the Gay Gordons, this time from Dennis Morrison and the Glenmore Scottish Dance Band. Take your partners. Well, how about that for a great start to the programme from Dennis Morrison and the Glenmore Scottish Dance Band. How you all doing? I hope you've had a great week. Hello to everyone tuned in from Shetland to Kelso to Moffat. No, that's somebody called, that's Ant, sorry. All over Dundee, Berwick and Tweed. Everybody's tuned in and no doubt across the pond as well. Well, we'll carry on straight away with a track from Tom Orr, and this is a Britannia two-step from his album Off the Beaten Track. that for a swinging track? That was Tom Orney's band from an album Off the Beaten Track, and of course for a Britannia two-step. We'll carry straight on. This time we'll slow it down a wee bit though with a St Bernard's Waltz, this time coming from the late Ian Holmes and his Scottish Dance Band. And of course there's a big tribute day coming up on the 22nd of June. I think the event's sold out, but if you get in touch with the organisers through social media, just in case someone can't go, there may be tickets available. That's the 22nd of June in Lockerbriggs Community Centre, and many well-kent faces from the Scottish Dance Band world will be performing there. But meantime, here's a reminder of the sound of Ian Holmes and his Scottish Dance Band with the St Bernard's Waltz. Well, what a bonny tune that is. I don't know the name of it. I came across it this afternoon when I was planning the show, and it's a lovely tune, probably one of Ian's own, and it was for a St Bernard's Waltz. That was from an album called Ideal Homes, and a lovely track, and beautifully played it was too for a St Bernard's Waltz. Well, we'll take the tempo up slightly, and this time we're going to Leonard Brown and his band from the album On the Move, so if you form sets, and we'll have a Virginia reel. Well, a great sound from Leonard and his band from the album On the Move. That was, of course, a Virginia reel, and we'll dedicate that to a new name. A name I've not seen on the list before. It's Stacey Keenan, who's over in Virginia, so I hope you're enjoying the show. And hello to Marge in Missouri. See you're tuned in as well. Hope you're all enjoying the show. Well, a couple of weeks ago, or the last time I did the Shindig, I played a track from Ewan's latest album, Melodies of Valor, and a lovely album it is too. Here's another track from that album, Melodies of Valor, and it's a beautiful air called Flowers of the Forest. Bonnie track, well done Ewan on that one. That was a Flowers of the Forest medley from Ewan Galloway and his new album Melodies of Valour. Well, the next track is a request and it's a celebration. Kathleen Rennie got in touch to say that on the 3rd of June, Kathleen and her husband John celebrate 58 years married, and they asked for a song from Derek Hamilton. Well, my kind of sense of humour, I thought, a Jim Reeves one, that would be great, but the one that I found was He'll Have to Go. But after 58 years, John, I think you've passed the test. So instead, we're going to have Derek singing another song. But I just seen the chat there, it's also Anne Smith and Ernie Smith's anniversary as well. So congratulations to you both as well. So for all four of you, and anyone else celebrating an anniversary, here is Derek Hamilton to sing This Song's Just For You.
Of all the songs the world is singing, of dreams that do and don't come true, I guess I've sung about 1,000,000. So darling, this song just for you. I don't care if the world can hear it playing, if it's never number 1 or 2. I just want to tell you that I love you. So darling, this song's just for you. What do they care about my troubles if the whole world suddenly falls through? You'll be the one who'll stand beside me. So darling, this song's just for you. I don't care if the world can hear it playing, if it's never number 1 or 2. I just want to tell you how much I love you. So darling, this song's just for you. I don't care if the world can hear it playing, if it's never number 1 or 2. I just want to tell you how I love you. So darling, this song's just for you. What do they care about my trouble if my whole world suddenly falls through? You'll be the one who'll stand beside me. So darling, this song's just for you. I don't care if the world can hear it clean, if it's never number one or two. I just want to tell you that I love you. So darling, this song's just for you. So darling, this song's just for you.
Well, the one and only Derek Hamilton with This Song's Just For You, and that was especially for Kathleen and John Rennie, and also for Anne and Ernie Smith up in Shetland, celebrating anniversaries this week. And we'll have now a military two-step, so pick the pace up, take your partners. Well, this time we're going to dance to the Wallachmore Ceilidh Band from an album called Full Throttle. Here we go with a military two-step. Unmistakable sound of the Wallichmore Kelly Band from their album Full Throttle. That was, of course, a military two-step, and a great sound it was as well. Well, this next track comes from Paddy Neary, one of my particular favourite players, Paddy Neary, and an album called The High Levels of Paddy Neary, and here he is with a selection of Irish waltzes. Wonderful playing of Paddy Neary with some Irish waltzes. And Iris, I couldn't agree more. I'm a big fan of his music. Well, the next track, it's halfway through the programme. Time for a wee trip to something a bit different, and it is continental in it. It's a European tune, but it's slightly classical in that it came from Strauss. And it's another favourite act or group of musicians that I enjoyed, the Curry Brothers, from their album Take 3. Here they are with the Tritch Tratch Polka. Well, how about that? The Curry Brothers with Tritch Tritch Polka from their album Take 3. Absolutely fantastic. Well, another chap who Ewan mentioned last week that Derek would have celebrated his 80th birthday last Wednesday, and some of you might know, but many of you wouldn't have known that Derek shared his birthday with Andrew Rankin. And the next track I'm going to play for Marge, who's tuned in, for John White down in Northumberland, and it is of course from Andrew Rankin and his Scottish Dance Band. And here they are from an album, Scottish Dance Party, with A Dashing White Sergeant. The wonderful sound of Andrew Rankin and his Scottish Dance Band with A Dashing White Sergeant. And yes, I'm aware the dancers are not dancing the Dashing White Sergeant, but they're doing a reel. It's in time. It's in time. And Marge, yes, I think you're probably correct. Well, the next track comes from Scott Band, another presenter on Radio GH. You can hear Scott on a Thursday at 6 p.m. with his Vinyl Vault, a programme of sort of vintage stuff. And from his album Bonnie Strathmore, here he is with his band to play for a Eva 3-step. great track from Scott Band and his band. That was a Eva 3-step from his album Bonnie Strathmore. Well, the next track, it's a wee bit different. I had the pleasure about 2 weeks ago hearing this guy live. I had seen videos of him and I had never managed to catch him live. And what a performer, what a musician, and a really nice chap. Some of you might have heard of him, Tim Eadie. And Tim plays just about everything and he plays it all superbly. And this is a track from his album Little Bird, which he recorded last year. And it's a track called a medley comprising of Broadstairs Jig and Fungy's Jig, which is both are self-composed by him. And there's a wee story on the CD, but here you go. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Tim Eadie and some jigs. Well, how about that? That was Tim Eadie with two jigs of his own composition, Broadstairs Jig and Fungy's Jig. Absolutely superb. And if you get the chance to hear him live, go. You will not be disappointed. What a performer. Well, back to the Scottish dance band scene from their album Recorded Delivery, and here they are with a selection of Skinner reels. what a good going set from the 60s bairns of Skinner Reels from the album Recorded Delivery. Well, it's time for another wee song, and this time we go to Co-Winning. Yeah, via Shetland. Martin Pottinger, originally from Shetland, but now lives not too far away from me, actually. Well known for singing everywhere, but a few years back there was an album brought out, 50 Years of Cayley Music in the Park Bar, a well-known establishment in Glasgow, where a refreshment and some great music can be heard. And on that album is many names that you know, including Martin. And here he is to sing Ye Jacobites by Name.
Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm in blame. You will hear, you will hear, your doctrines I'm in blame, I'm in blame. What is right and what is wrong? By the law, by the law. What's right and what is wrong? By the law. What's right and what is wrong? The weaker and the strong. The shorts are done and long. For the draw, for the draw. The shorts are done and long. For the draw. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm in blame. You will hear, you will hear, your doctrines I'm in blame, I'm in blame. What makes a heroic strife? Fame the far, fame the far. What makes a heroic strife? Fame the far. What makes a heroic strife? To whet the assassin's knife and hunt the parent's life in bloody war, bloody war, and hunt the parent's life in bloody war. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm in blame. You will hear, you will hear, your doctrines I'm in blame, I'm in blame. So let your schemes alone, in the state, in the state. So let your schemes alone, in the state. So let your schemes alone, adore the rising sun, and leave a man undone to his fate, to his fate, and leave a man undone to his fate. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm in blame. You will hear, you will hear, your doctrines I'm in blame, I'm in blame. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, lend an ear. Ye Jacobites by name, your faults I will proclaim, your doctrines I'm in blame. You will hear, you will hear, your doctrines I'm in blame, I'm in blame.
The one and only Martin Pottinger from an album 50 Years of Cayley Music at the Park Bar. And what a voice Martin has. In fact, when he sings Ring of Fire, he's more Johnny Cash than Johnny Cash is. Fantastic voice. That was Martin with Ye Jacobites by Name. Well, the next track, this one will keep Liz, Jack and Wesco Bride happy. It's one from the Lone and Cayley Band from their album Making Tracks. Here they are with a Circassian Circle. Well, fantastic set from the Lomond Cayley Band from their album Making Tracks. That was, of course, a set for the Circassian Circle, so give you a chance to catch your breath again, and we'll bring the tempo down slightly. But we're going to Lindsay Weir and her Scottish Dance Band to an album Step in Style, and here they are with a lovely Pride of Erin waltz. Well, folks, that just about brings us to the end of the programme. That was a lovely selection from Lindsay Weir and the Scottish Dance Band to a set for A Pride of Erin waltz. Thanks very much for your company for the last hour, and I hope you have a great week going forward. I'll leave you in the very capable hands from back to the 50 Years of Cayley Music in the Park Bar album, this time to Jock and Doris for a set of reels. Take care of yourselves, and all the best to the next time. Thanks very much for all your comments. Have a great week. All the best. Cheerio.